It started as a perfect day. A perfect winter day. The kind you see on holiday cards, you know? White snow fell from a gray sky. It covered everything. The trees wore white coats and the street looked like a river of milk. I loved days like this. I worked from home so I didn't have to go out. I could just stay inside where it was warm. The snow made everything quiet. It was a soft, peaceful quiet, like the world was holding its breath. I sat at my desk by the window and watched the flakes dance and twirl. They looked like tiny ghosts playing in the wind. I felt so safe and cozy. It was the kind of day where nothing bad could ever happen. Or so I thought. I made a cup of hot chocolate, and the sweet smell filled my small office. Outside, the wind started to pick up. It whistled around the corners of my house. The big pine tree in my yard swayed back and forth, its branches scraping against the roof. It was a familiar sound. A comforting sound. It was the music of winter. I typed away on my computer, feeling happy. The world outside was a swirling mess of white, but inside, I was in my own little bubble. My own safe little world. Nothing could get in. Nothing could bother me here. The snow was a wall, protecting me from everything. I was warm. I was comfortable. I was completely and totally wrong. The snow fell faster and faster. The world outside the window was turning into a blur. You could barely see the neighbor's house across the street. It was like we were the only house on the planet. I liked that feeling. It was just me and the storm. The wind howled a lonely song. It rattled the windows in their frames. I wasn't scared. I loved the power of a good storm. It made me feel small, but in a good way. It reminded me that nature was in charge. I finished my work for the day and leaned back in my chair. The sun was starting to go down, even though you couldn't see it. The gray sky was turning into a dark, deep blue. My house was at the end of a long, winding road. It was surrounded by woods, thick, dark woods. In the summer, it was beautiful, but in the winter, it could feel a little spooky. The bare trees looked like bony fingers reaching for the sky, especially at night. But tonight, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about dinner. I was thinking about watching a movie. The snow was piling up, getting deeper and deeper. It was a good night to be inside. A very good night. The house was quiet except for the wind and the gentle hum of the heater. It was the calm before the terror. The last few moments of peace before my world turned upside down. The sky got darker and darker. The snow didn't stop. Not for a second, it just kept coming down. It was almost magical. The snowflakes were big and fluffy. They stuck to the window panes, making frosty patterns. I felt like I was inside a snow globe, a tiny, perfect world that someone had just shaken up. The wind was getting stronger. It sounded like a wolf howling in the distance, a lonely, hungry wolf. But I wasn't scared. My house was old, but it was strong. It had stood through hundreds of storms just like this one. It was my fortress, my safe place. I turned on a lamp, and the room filled with a warm yellow light. It made everything feel even cozier. I decided to make some soup for dinner. I walked into the kitchen. The windows, they looked out over the backyard. It was just a big, white, empty space now. The fence was buried. The swing set looked like a strange white monster. The woods behind the yard were a wall of blackness. The wind pushed against the back door, making it rattle. Thump. Thump. It sounded like someone was knocking, but I knew it was just the wind. It was always the wind. I put the soup on the stove and listened to it bubble. The warm smell of chicken and vegetables filled the air. It was the perfect smell for a cold winter night. A perfect, normal night. I ate my soup while sitting on the couch. I watched the news on TV. The weather reporter was very excited. He talked about the storm of the century. He said everyone should stay inside. Don't go out for any reason. I smiled. I wasn't planning on going anywhere. Where would I go? The roads were probably a mess. My car was already buried under a mountain of snow. I was trapped, but it was a good kind of trapped, a cozy kind of trapped. I was happy to be stuck here. I had food, I had heat, I had my TV. What more could I need? The house creaked and groaned around me like an old ship at sea. After dinner I cleaned up the kitchen. The house was so quiet. The only sounds were the storm outside and the ticking of the clock on the wall. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It seemed louder than usual tonight, like it was counting down to something. I tried to ignore it. I went back to my office to check my email one last time. The wind slammed against the side of the house. A branch scraped loudly against the window right next to my head. Scrape! It made me jump. I laughed at myself. It's just the tree, I thought. Just the tree. Just the wind. I had no idea that something else was out there. Something much, much scarier than a tree branch. I was about to shut down my computer. Then I saw it. A light. A small circle of yellow light, moving through the trees at the edge of my yard. What was that? I leaned closer to the window, pressing my face against the cold glass. It was definitely a light. A flashlight. It bobbed up and down as it moved. Who would be out there? In this storm? On a night like this? The weather reporter said to stay inside. Maybe it was a neighbor. Maybe their power went out and they were checking on me. But my lights were on. They could see that. And my neighbors lived far away. You couldn't even see their houses through the thick woods. The light disappeared. Then it came back, closer this time. It was in my backyard now. It moved slowly, deliberately. It swept across the snow, lighting up the buried swing set. Then it pointed at the back of my house, right at the kitchen window. My heart started to beat a little faster. Thump, 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 thump. This felt wrong. Very wrong. Why would someone be looking into my house? I quickly turned off the lamp in my office. The room went dark. I didn't want them to see me. I peeked over the bottom of the windowsill. The flashlight beam was still there. It moved up from the kitchen window to the upstairs windows, slowly, searching. I told myself not to panic. There had to be a good reason. Maybe it was the power company. Maybe they were checking the lines. But why would they be walking in my backyard? Don't they use trucks for that? And why would they be shining a light into my windows? It didn't make any sense. My mind raced, trying to find an explanation. A normal explanation, a not scary explanation, but I couldn't find one. All I could feel was a cold knot of fear growing in my stomach. The flashlight beam swept across the back of the house one more time. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. The backyard was dark again, just black woods and white snow. I stood there in the dark for a long time, my heart pounding in my chest. Was it gone? Did the person leave? I waited and waited. I didn't see the light again. I started to relax. Just a little. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just someone lost in the storm. A hiker maybe. No, that was silly. Who would go hiking in a blizzard? I tried to laugh it off. I was just spooked because of the storm. My imagination was playing tricks on me. That's all it was. A trick of the light. A trick of the mind. I took a deep breath and told myself everything was fine. Everything was okay. But I knew deep down that it wasn't. I crept out of my dark office. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't want to be seen, just in case. Just in case that flashlight came back. The house was eerily silent now. The wind had died down a little. All I could hear was the tick-tock of the clock and the frantic pounding of my own heart. I tiptoed to the living room window and peeked outside. The street was empty. Just snow. Mountains of snow. No cars. No people. No flashlights. I felt a small wave of relief wash over me. I was being silly. It was nothing. I was safe. I needed to just relax and forget about it. The storm was making me paranoid. That's when I heard it. A noise. It came from the back of the house. A soft thump. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't a tree branch. It was different. It was a dull, heavy sound, like something bumping against the back door. I froze. Every muscle in my body went tight. The flashlight. The person with the flashlight was at my back door. I was sure of it. I stood perfectly still, listening. My ears strained to hear anything over the sound of my own breathing. I heard it again. Thump, thump, thump. It was a soft, rhythmic sound. Someone was pushing on the door, gently, testing it. My mind went blank with fear. What do I do? What do I do? I looked at the phone on the table. Should I call the police? What would I say? I think someone is pushing on my door. They would think I was crazy. It could still be the wind. It could be a big pile of snow falling off the roof. It could be anything. I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to be the crazy person who calls 911 because of a little noise. So I waited. I stood there, frozen like a statue, just listening. The thumping stopped. Silence. A long, heavy silence that felt more terrifying than the noise itself. I started to think I had imagined it, that the fear from seeing the flashlight had made me hear things. I took a shaky step towards the kitchen. I had to know. I had to look. I had to make sure the door was locked. I crept across the living room floor. Each step was a nightmare. The floorboards creaked under my feet. The sounds were like gunshots in the silent house. I held my breath. I reached the doorway to the kitchen. It was dark. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. A draft. A cold stream of air. The back door was open. And it wasn't the wind. Before I could even scream, it happened. The whole house went black. Pitch black. The lights went out. The TV went off. The quiet hum of the refrigerator stopped. The power was gone. All of it. The darkness was total. It was like a thick black blanket had been thrown over the world. I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. My breath caught in my throat. I was standing in the doorway to the kitchen, completely blind. The only thing I could hear now was the storm outside, which seemed to roar back to life, and the sound of my own heart, which was trying to hammer its way out of my chest. A million thoughts raced through my head. The storm must have knocked the power out. That's all it was. A coincidence. A terrible, horrible coincidence. But I knew better. The person with the flashlight, the noise at the door, and now, the power was out. This wasn't a coincidence. They did this. They cut the power. They wanted the house to be dark. They wanted me to be blind. The cold draft from the kitchen felt like an icy hand on my skin. Someone was in my house. I wasn't alone anymore. The fear was so intense it was hard to breathe. I felt a scream building in my throat, but I choked it down. I couldn't make a sound. I couldn't let them know where I was. I tried to back away slowly. My foot hit the leg of a chair. It made a loud scraping sound on the wood floor. The noise echoed in the silent, dark house. I froze, horrified. Did they hear that? Of course they heard it. Now they knew. They knew someone was here. And they knew where I was. I stood there, not breathing, not moving, listening. Listening for any sound, a footstep, a breath, anything. But there was nothing. Only the wind howling outside. It was a terrifying waiting game. Was I imagining all of this? Was I going crazy? Was it just a power outage and an open door? Then I heard it. A sound from the kitchen. The sound of a floorboard. Someone was walking, very slowly, very quietly. They were in the kitchen, just a few feet away from me. In the total darkness, I could feel the hair on my arm stand up. This was real. This was happening. A stranger was in my house. The cozy, safe little snow globe I had been living in was shattered. And now, a monster was inside. A monster I couldn't see. But I knew it was there. I could feel it. And it was coming for me. My blood turned to ice. A floorboard creaked in the kitchen. It was a soft sound, but in the dead silence of the powerless house, it was like a thunderclap. Someone was there, moving. My mind screamed at me to run, to hide, to do something, but my feet felt like they were glued to the floor. I was paralyzed by fear. I could hear my own breathing, fast and shallow. I tried to make it stop, sure that the intruder could hear it too. Who was it? Why were they here? The questions pounded in my head, but there were no answers. Only the terrifying darkness and the certainty that I was no longer alone in my own home. I heard another sound, a soft, shuffling noise, like someone dragging their feet. They were moving from the kitchen into the dining room, getting closer. I had to move, now. I took a step back, as silently as I could. My hand brushed against the wall and I used it to guide myself. I was blind, moving through a house I knew by heart, but it felt completely alien in the dark. Every piece of furniture was an obstacle. Every creak of the floor was a betrayal. I felt like a mouse being hunted by a cat in the dead of night. A slow, terrifying game of hide-and-seek where the stakes were my life. Where could I go? Upstairs. The stairs were old and creaked with every step. They would hear me for sure. The basement? The door was on the other side of the dining room, too close to them. I needed a place to hide. A place they wouldn't think to look. A place where I could be silent. My mind raced. The small bathroom, the one downstairs, off the hallway. It was tiny, it had no windows, and the door had a lock. It was my only chance. I moved along the wall, my fingers tracing the familiar wallpaper, my heart hammering against my ribs with every step I took. The shuffling sound stopped. I held my breath. Where were they? What were they doing? I listened, my ears straining. Then I heard a new sound. The sound of a drawer opening, a metallic rattle. The silverware drawer in the dining room sideboard. Clink, clank, rattle. They were searching for something. What were they looking for? It wasn't a normal robbery. Burglars are usually fast. They grab what they can and get out. This was different. This was slow, deliberate. They were taking their time. It was as if they were looking for something specific. Or someone. Me. I reached the bathroom door. My hand trembled as I turned the old brass knob. It made a soft click as I pulled it open. I slipped inside, moving as quietly as a ghost. I gently pulled the door shut behind me. I didn't dare lock it yet. The click of the lock would be too loud. I sank to the cold tile floor, my back against the door. The bathroom was even darker than the rest of the house. It was like being buried alive. I pulled my knees to my chest and wrapped my arms around them, trying to make myself as small as possible. I was shaking all over. I couldn't stop. I could hear them moving around now, more clearly. They were in the hallway, just outside the door. I could hear the floorboards creaking right outside. Step. Creak. Step. Creak. They were walking slowly, pausing after each step. Were they listening for me? Did they know I was here? My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a sob. I could feel tears streaming down my face. I was so scared. I felt so helpless. Trapped in this tiny, dark box, listening to a monster walk past my door. I pressed my ear against the wood, trying to hear everything. The footsteps moved past the bathroom door. They continued down the hallway, towards my office. I heard the office door open. A long, slow creak. They were in my office now. The room I had felt so safe in just an hour ago. What were they doing in there? I heard more shuffling sounds. The sound of papers being moved, a drawer being pulled open. They were searching my desk. This was no random intruder. They knew the layout of the house. They knew where my office was. They were looking for something. Or they were looking for me, and they thought I was hiding in there. Time seemed to stop. I sat on the cold floor, listening. Every tiny sound from the house made me jump. The wind howled outside, and for the first time, I was grateful for it. It helped cover any small noise I might make. The footsteps came out of the office. They were walking back down the hall, towards me. Step, step, step. They were getting closer, closer. They stopped right outside the bathroom door. I held my breath. My heart stopped. This is it, I thought. They know I'm in here. They're going to open the door. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the knob to turn. The knob didn't turn. For what felt like an eternity, there was only silence. I could feel their presence on the other side of the door. I could almost feel them breathing. Why were they waiting? What were they thinking? Then, the footsteps started again. They moved away. They went into the living room. I heard them moving around in there, opening things, searching. This was my chance. My only chance. They were distracted. I had to get out. I had to get out of the house. Now. While I had the chance. I slowly, carefully reached up and turned the lock on the door. It made a soft snick sound. I prayed they didn't hear it. I counted to 10, my heart pounding with every number. Then I slowly turned the knob. I opened the door just a crack. I peeked out. The hallway was a river of blackness. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear them. They were still in the living room. I took a deep breath. It was now or never. I slipped out of the bathroom and started for the front door. I moved on my tiptoes, trying to remember where every piece of furniture was. I felt my way along the wall, my hands shaking. The front door felt like it was a million miles away. Every shadow seemed to move. Every gust of wind sounded like a footstep behind me. I reached the front door. My fingers fumbled with the locks in the dark. There were two of them, a deadbolt and a lock on the knob. My hands were so sweaty and shaky it was hard to turn them. Click. The deadbolt unlocked. It sounded like a gunshot. I froze, listening. Did they hear? The searching sounds from the living room stopped. Oh no. They heard. I had to go. Now! I frantically turned the second lock and pulled the door open. A blast of icy wind and snow hit me in the face. It felt wonderful. It felt like freedom. I didn't bother to close the door. I just ran. I scrambled out into the storm. The snow was deep, up to my knees. I was wearing only socks on my feet. The cold was shocking, but I barely felt it. Adrenaline was pumping through me. I ran for my car. It was just a big white lump in the driveway. I clawed at the driver's side door, pulling at the handle. It was frozen shut. Panic surged through me. I pulled again, harder, using all my strength. The door finally burst open with a loud crunch of ice. I threw myself inside, slammed the door, and locked it. I was safe. For a moment, I looked back at my house. My front door was wide open, a dark, gaping mouth, and a figure was standing in the doorway, looking out at me. I fumbled in the glove compartment, my fingers numb and clumsy. Where was my phone? I had left it on the charger, in the house. My heart sank. I was trapped in my car with no way to call for help. The figure in the doorway didn't move. They just stood there, a dark silhouette against the blackness of my home. I had to get away. I jammed my keys into the ignition. Please start. Please start. Please start. I turned the key. The engine sputtered. It coughed. The cold was getting to it. Come on! I screamed inside my head. I tried again. The engine roared to life. I didn't wait. I slammed the car into reverse and stomped on the gas. The car fishtailed in the deep snow. The tires spun, whining, but then they caught. The car lurched backward. I spun the wheel and shot down my long driveway, away from the house, away from the figure in the door. I didn't look back. I just drove. I drove as fast as I could on the snow-covered roads. I finally made it to a gas station that still had power. I ran inside, shaking and crying, my socks soaked and frozen. I used their phone to call the police. They arrived quickly. They took me to the station and gave me a warm blanket and a hot drink. I told them everything, every detail. The police went to my house. They found it empty. The intruder was gone. They said the back door had been forced open. The power line from the pole to the house had been cut. It wasn't the storm. The person had done it on purpose. Inside, the house was a mess. But not a normal mess from a robbery. Only certain things were touched. My desk, my filing cabinet, my bedside table. The officer who interviewed me had a serious look on his face. He said it looked like the person knew the house. He said it looked like they were searching for something specific. Or, he said, they were searching for me. That was the most chilling part of all. I never went back to that house to live. I had friends pack up my things. I moved to a new apartment in the middle of the city. There are lots of lights and lots of people. I have 3 locks on my door now. I still get scared when the power goes out. I don't like storms anymore. They don't feel cozy. They feel threatening. That night changed me. I used to feel so safe in my own home. I trusted that the walls could protect me, but I learned that sometimes the monsters can get in, and you never know when they might be standing right outside your door, holding a flashlight, waiting for the dark.